Welcome back, everybody. And for those who are first-time listeners, welcome to the show. This is an exciting episode. We have a lot of things to discuss, hot topics that a lot of people have been asking us via DM on Instagram. But we wanted to start here. We are officially renaming our podcast the Wealth Juice Podcast, formerly known as the Weekly Juice. We figured this is a little bit more cohesive to the future and direction of the show, and kind of all previous episodes. We talk about wealth building, entrepreneurship, investing, business, personal finance, and we figured wealth kind of comprises all of that. So moving forward, the show is known as the Wealth Juice Podcast. You'll see that across all social as well. So not a big change, but something we're really excited about as the Ryan and Cory 2.0. So the next evolution of our journey here. And today we're going to take a little bit of a different approach to the episode. We don't have any special guests other than ourselves. And as I mentioned, we've received some questions over the last couple of years on our personal journey. We've done a few episodes that talk about specific points when we either have to overcome a big hurdle or we have a big milestone or a new partnership. But I think today we want to take you across our journey over the last 6 years on how we built our net worth to a combined $1.7 million, nearing on 2 million right now, probably by the end of 2025. And for young guys in their 30s, there's a lot of people that they really like listening to our episodes with bigger name people and people that are highly successful with thousands of real estate units. But a lot of people really want to know how we personally grew our net worth and kind of hear our story and how it unravels. So that's the goal of today, is to give you a peek behind the curtain, show you step by step, really, how we started our journey and where we got to today. And then stick around to the end. We are officially launching a coaching platform and program for a very small group of individuals to start out that are interested in working one-on-one with Cory and I to help you build your roadmap to financial freedom. We'll talk through a bunch of different things, but really our pillars to wealth and how we got to our journey. We'll walk you through those and how you can kind of implement them in your own life. We'll start really with talking about, I don't want to spoil it too much, but really starts with a mindset and getting your mind right. And then, progresses over time through basically building your financial house and getting everything in order appropriately over time, and eventually weaving real estate investing into your portfolio. And then for those who are looking to expand and really take advantage of building an audience and personal brand, we're going to show people how you can launch a podcast, how you can launch a personal brand to tie everything together and creatively network in the digital age. So excited for this episode.
We are really excited about this. So Wealth Juice, it's kind of just like the second iteration of Ryan and I. As we grow, our brand grows, our thoughts grow, we kind of change the direction, and we try to modify that to the type of value that we're bringing to our audience. And that's really what this stemmed from. The Weekly Juice is just morphed, and we talk a lot about building wealth and mindset and all of these things. We bring on all these entrepreneurs, and we just felt like it was fitting. But in terms of the coaching program, basically it's kind of this idea of like, what did they not teach you in school that you'd like to learn? All we're going to be able to do is give you the tools and the tricks and the things that we've learned along the way, to now we're at a point where our wealth is able to grow more exponentially than it used to, because once you get to a certain point, it starts to expand and your money's really starting to work for you. And we're excited about giving people the roadmap to financial independence. That's what the outcome of this is going to be. Let's say you're a 25 to 40-year-old six-figure earner. You know how to make money, but you don't know how to grow it. And that's the long and short of it. And we'll get that into the episode, but I wanted to give a frame of like what this is going to look like. And we're really excited to bring it to you because we post all this content online, and we've found that they want the next level, the next layer deep. And that's what this is. So, yeah.
So let's start out. Cory, maybe we can start with you, but let's take them back to when we really started on this journey. And we could talk about maybe even just the inception of the podcast, because I think that's right around where it started, when we both decided to purchase our primary residences. And I know a lot of people will say, that's not an investment. Other people say it is an investment. We can start there, and then kind of how the decisions you made up until that point allowed you to have a solid foundation to be able to actually move forward and purchase.
Yeah. So for a lot of people that have been listening to our podcast, you maybe know our story. We've touched on it. We've done like these different episodes over time. We've given you updates, and people seem to really like it. I think, but we may have a lot of new listeners. So I'm not going to go too deep like all the way in on it, but I want to give the inception and then walk everyone through the building blocks of where this went. So when I graduated college, I got my first job out of school was in insurance, and I hated it so much. But what I did is I thought, and I've talked about this in a couple of episodes, I thought it was super cool. So I was like, oh, I got my first job, I'm going to buy a Mercedes. And, it wasn't a new Mercedes, but it was something that I could fit into my budget. I wasn't like really stupid about it, but it was like allowing me to, it contributed to me breaking even every month. And I'm like, this, I love the car. I'm going to have another one day and maybe a different Mercedes, but I was like, it's not really like giving me what I really need. Like what I really need at 22 or 23 is to get ahead. So what ended up happening was a couple years go by, I changed jobs. And then as Ryan and I come into the picture together, we start to realize that there's more to this than the 9-to-5 life. There's more to this, what does wealth building look like? You see people that are living the lives that you want to live. How do you get in front of them? Hence us starting the podcast. But just before that, I learned this from somebody. I was working a job, and this is the story I'm not sure if I've told. I was working a job and I was making $35,000 a year. And, if you're hearing this in 2024, you're like, I mean, damn,
poverty level.
Literally.
Yeah.
So my boss was like, I'm going to be able to get you a raise to 50 grand, but you can also add additional income. So it's like, I know 50 is not like killing it, but like you can also stay. And this is how you can stay and do this job, because he really wanted me to stay. And I love the guy. And he said, you should buy a 5-bedroom house and rent out 4 of the bedrooms. And he's like, there's all these people that work here. They'd want to live here with you. We had a lot of young people. We worked at the same place. We had a lot of young people that worked there. They'd all want to live there. So I ended up deciding that I couldn't stay at that job because I wanted to make more than $35,000. But I took that idea and I bought a house hack. I bought a 3-bed, 2-bath. I lived in one of the bedrooms. 2 of my friends lived in the other bedrooms. I was ended up spending nothing to live, basically. I think it cost me $100 a month to live. That property started to build some equity because I bought it in an area that was, I wouldn't say like gentrifying, but just like an up and coming area. So before you know it, a property that was worth $250,000, grew to 300, 350. It's probably worth close to 400 today. So, and in that time period, I was having my mortgage subsidized by my roommates. So I was able to save up that extra money that would be going to rent. And then I went and I bought a rental property. And this rental property that I bought was in like a pretty shitty area. Like it was not a great area, not terrible, but not a great area. I learned all the tools and what I needed and where I wanted to be and where I didn't want to be. I ended up selling that property later and trading up. But that was just like the inception of getting my feet wet, training wheels in real estate, not having all these expenses going out the door, selling the Mercedes, kind of downgrading, and then taking that spread between what I was making. I got a sales job, taking that spread and amplifying it so that I could have more money left over. So that's just like kind of that beginning story.
No, it's a good story. And I think my story it's odd that it kind of parallels it just in a different way. So for me, right out of school, I started working a job and it was very sales based. There was a very low level salary, and then you could, get commission based on what you sold. And when I
tell people, bro, I'm pretty sure your salary was like $20,000.
Yeah, it was like 20
grand.
Literally 20 grand.
Yeah.
And you could make an upward trajectory. Like if you were having a solid year, you'd make 40K. So 20 in commission, right? But out of school, I didn't know any better. I thought that's amazing. I was like, oh, I'm making 20 grand. That's great. Because you see $20,000. You're not dividing it out by the hour and realizing how much you're actually making. And then when you get into the cycle of things, I think it's very interesting as you navigate corporate America and realize the chess game that you have to play. And this was pre-COVID, right? So it was a little more intense, and there was no hybrid schedule, no work from home. It was like grinding every day and like staying late. And people would ask you, do you care about your career if you left past 5 p.m.? And you're really trying to play this game to elevate to the next level, to be going to management, then director, VP, et cetera. You scale your way up. And over time, as I kind of navigated and charted course, I realized I was getting paid for the effort, time, and energy I put into the job, which I really liked. A lot of my friends were making, let's just call it 50 grand, 60 grand right out of school, maybe in like a small finance job. And they were getting paid whether they had a great day or a shitty day. no matter what, they were getting paid that 60 grand. And I was like, dude, man, like I feel like I'm just meant for a little bit more. I had this like competitive like fire in me that I was like, I don't really think I could sit there every day and just make a check if I'm doing, because if I'm doing amazing, I want to get paid for doing amazing. And, obviously I understand if I'm doing bad, like that's going to reflect on me. Now there's a bunch of things that go with that. There's numbers that go out every day for like talk time and leaderboards and numbers, right? So there's that competitive edge that I think Cory and I both had growing up playing sports. We were like equipped for that. So, one big recommendation I have for a lot of people when you're trying to get your financial house in order, one of the quickest ways, instead of like living super frugally and like and penny pinching your way through, is looking for ways to increase your income. And for us, we were able to do so through sales, and we put our nose to the grindstone and really went to that. And so over the next couple of years, we got up to six figures, and like averaging six figures a year was really great. But there came a point where like, are we putting this in the right spot? Are we going on vacations? Are we buying the Mercedes? Are we paying other people to rent their property, right? Like not owning places. And so it came to a head. We had a lot of different conversations and had advice from people in our circle. We quickly realized we wanted to, parlay off Cory's initial conversation with one of his mentors that mentioned house hacking. That's how Cory got in. For me, I was a different stage in my life, and I decided to buy a primary residence that I was not going to subsidize the mortgage in any way. It was my wife and I. We decided to go buy a house before we got married. And at that time, property rates were very low and interest rates were really low. It was a little bit before COVID. So I think we started at like a 4.5, eventually refinanced into like a 3.3. But my mortgage payments under $2,000. People were paying close to that in rent. So I knew at least a portion of the money that I came in was going towards the equity in my home. Now, some of it was going to taxes, some of it was going to the interest, but I just knew at least I was paying myself a little bit. And so
each month and year, it grows higher and higher.
Slowly trimming down.
Yeah.
Yes. So that was like the first big move. And going through your first home purchase, whether it's a home or an investment, it's a doozy in itself. You have to build a team out, and we'll get into that. But for us, it took a lot of research and reading books and wanting to do it the right way, because you have to build the right team and you can be quickly navigated down the wrong path if you don't have the right people on your team. But I say all this in the real estate. What allowed us to get into real estate was over time, as we increased our income, we were doing a lot of intelligent things on the back end, which was saving more than we were spending, right? And then investing that money. I know it sounds basic, but a lot of people, some people are really into this, and that's other people, they don't know anything about it. We both had 401k matches through our jobs. So what we decided to do was max those out as best we possibly could. If you have a match, right? Essentially the company, if you put in 6%, 7%, whatever the number is, let's just say you put in 7% of your salary, some companies have a match, they'll match that 7%. And that means you're getting 7% of, technically, in our eyes, free money, right? Like we're going to go for the match. And there's a lot of different things you can invest in within the company plan. You have to navigate that. And for us, we did. So we knew that we had a portion of our income going to retirement. Then we put another siphon of our income away for an emergency fund. We had about 3 to 6 months worth of expenses of our whole year put into a side fund. And then we also had another fund for real estate so that we could start getting into real estate investing at one point. Now, as this thing grew, we added a Roth IRA, and there's a brokerage account. Like once you get to a certain point and you have your ducks in a row, you can branch out and start these other accounts to get your money to start compounding faster in different areas. Now, a big goal for us was, how can we saw a lot of posts on Instagram, and then we started running the numbers. Bankrate.com has a great compound interest calculator. Quick plug. But it allows you to project, based on a specific rate of return you're getting on your investments, how quickly you can make it to $1 million. And for us, we realized the quickest, if we could get to 100K in each of these accounts as fast as we could, our money would start working for us. Once you hit that 6-figure mark, your money starts cranking for you. So I say all this to say, we set our financial house in order before we got into diving in and buying rental properties, so that we knew what money could do for us, and we started putting it to work. And then it allowed us to kind of take the next step and say, hey, how do we start building a real estate portfolio? And what's the best way we can get other people around us that are already doing the same thing that we want to do?
There is a clear path to this too. And the path isn't the same for everyone. And that's what I want to reiterate here. And part of the reason that we're doing this coaching program is because we want to dive into the individuality of somebody and what's the best way for their path to go. But we've already, there's people that listen to this podcast that are worth a lot more money than us. And that's not it, but we understand the path and how to get there. And I think that there's probably a lot of people that are listening that would like to be in the position that we are. So that's the aspect of this coaching program that we're going to dive into. So Ryan mentioned the 3 to 6 months emergency fund. So I'll give you some like tactical strategies of one of the things that we did. Once we got to that number, then we were able to say, okay, I have for example, $500 a month going into my brokerage. I have the 401k, the match. I have an emergency fund. I have a sinking fund where I have money dripping in. Maybe if I do want to go on vacation or I want to buy something. And then as that baseline grew, we realized, okay, well, now every other additional dollar that's not going to our expenses can go to real estate. Okay. So once you get to this certain point, you're like, I don't need any more money in checking. I can put it in a position so that I can save it up and buy a rental property. And that's what Ryan and I did. We, to kind of carry on this path, we bought a rental property, then we bought another, then we bought another. Together, we bought multiple. And, a lot of this is like, okay, how do you form this partnership? Like, what does the formation of the business look like? Like, what did you guys do to make sure that you were keeping your expenses? A lot of this is the things that we're going to cover. But I wanted to mention the growth of the real estate. Like, we weren't afraid to make mistakes. We were going into areas that we felt like properties would do well. And then we realized along the way that we had to pivot. Like, we started to play this little bit of this monopoly game. As an example, like my first rental property that I bought, I owned it for 4 years. And then I owned it for 3 years. And I realized that, okay, this property was making me $300 a month. Can I get a better return on my equity, right? Taking that money and then going into buying a bigger property that compounds the exponentiality of the appreciation at a higher rate so that my money grows for me faster, right? So all of that comes once you get in the game and you see things playing, and like maybe people need a consultative approach of which chess pieces they should move. And that is kind of the antithesis of our program and why we wanted to do this.
Yeah. And I think the next stage here is like, I really want to talk about how we amplified and shortened our time horizon here to get to this net worth number. And it was realizing we were on a path, we had a solid foundation, and we were putting our chess pieces together and we had the foundation laid, right? And over time, the next thing, there was only two other things we could do. It was like, just keep increasing our income as much as we could and then dump them into these different buckets, right? And deciding what percentage we were going to dump into there. It's also, there's tips and tricks we didn't mention before, but your savings rate is something that's very important to realize how much you're actually keeping at the end of the month. It's not what you make, it's what you keep, and then how you deploy it from there, right? So that's just another factor that we factored in, and we started tracking it. We really did. It was almost like our personal balance sheet. We had our income, we had our expenses, we had our debts, we had our assets, and then we were able to calculate our net worth and then really track things over time, because what they say is like what gets tracked gets measured, and what gets measured gets acted upon.
What gets tracked gets measured, what gets measured gets done. I think it's something like that. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are afraid to look at their dollars at the end of each month, and they know they have subscriptions and they have other stuff that they're spending on. And like, once you stop hiding from it and realizing no one's coming to save you and start taking accountability, that's what sets you on the next level. I think for us, we had each other to hold ourselves accountable. And as we grew in our life, we realized like, you're getting older, dude. Like this, at some point, you're going to want to retire. You're going to want to do the things you want to do. Can you shorten that time horizon? And what are the tips and tricks to get there? We have a bunch of different books we recommend, but I think the number one for us that really set the tone, and you probably heard this in a ton of the episodes that we've recorded on the podcast, but Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And it really framed the way to utilize dollars and change it from like something coming in and you immediately spend it. It's like, how can you build assets that are income producing and they pay you monthly? So outside of just having your job giving you money every month, what other things can you buy? It doesn't have to just be real estate. What other things can you deploy your money into that will pay you a return monthly, so that when, air quotes here, when you're sleeping, you're making cash and you don't have to go to work. And the more that you stack those up, eventually you'll reach this financial independence number. And so it could be small businesses, it could be real estate, it could be stocks, it could be a bunch of different things. And it just depends on how much you're going to take out per year. But I say that too. So we got to this point, right? And we realized we have this foundation. And Cory, then the world freezes. COVID hits. Cory approaches me. He's like, dude, listen, I'm thinking we need to get our message out there. And I just want to talk to more people that are like-minded like us. What do you think about starting a podcast? And I was like, dude, we've done a lot of things together. And if you're passionate and you're about this, I know how dedicated and attention or detail oriented you are. And if you say you're going to do something, you do it. I'm like, I'm in. But just know if I'm in, I'm going to pick it apart and I can't do anything half-assed. And he's like, dude, that's good. That's why I asked you. I said, okay, great. So we decided to start it with another partner who was a producer. And we basically had this idea that we would just share our journey along the way, right? Like where we were at that point and how we could grow our net worth to X amount, right? And become, retire earlier, find financial independence, because we found our research all on the FIRE movement, right? And if you're not familiar with that, it's financial independence, retire early. There's a million different schools of thought. But for us, we were like, we don't want to be the frugal guys that are penny pinching our way there. We want fat FIRE. We want to make a shitload of income and deploy that into the things that excite us. And it's a game, right? Real life Monopoly. So I say that we ended up starting the podcast, and it started just from Cory and I's journey. And we were like, let's ask some people to come on the show and share their stories. And then we found like the podcast started to really grow when other people would share their stories, and we would get our episodes posted on their network. What really turned the corner for us was one of our first early episodes. And we've mentioned this before, but we read the book and had studied his YouTube channel and he had a podcast, or still does. His name's Chad Coach Carson. He's from, he went to Clemson, played football there, but he was able to retire early with real estate. And he was someone that we like idolized at this point because he seemed like a really good dude, and he broke it down as a coach would, right? Like we talk about this a lot. Like we have coaches from, the time you can play sports all the way through high school. And then when you get into real life, when sports are over and you're not going pro, you don't have a coach to help guide you in the biggest game of your life, which is to be able to live the life you want and not feel trapped to a job and all these things. So Coach Carson ended up being our coach, whether he knew it or not. We lived vicariously through him, studying all his things. And Cory had an idea one day. He's like, dude, why don't we try to get Chad on the podcast? And I'm like, dude, you should see our podcast. There's not much here yet. Like it was just us recording our story, and Chad took a chance on us, and he said, you know what? Yeah, guys, I'll come on your show. We told him how much he impacted us. And shortly thereafter, amazing episode, our reach grew. And once someone saw that Chad was on the show, it allowed us to have a stepping stone to the next big guest that was in the space, had them on our show. And now we were able to interview people that we were reading books about and network with them and ask their tips and tricks to the trade and say like, okay, like how can we implement this strategically into our picture to grow our net worth and help other people? And then our podcast became about, hey, this is not about just Ryan and Cory trying to network organically and build our network. It's like, how can we impact and touch the most people? Because there's so many things that were not taught in school that we learned by self-education. And our goal with our program that we're launching is, hey, how can we package the last, let's call it roughly 6 years of our lives and the 200 plus interviews we've done with highly successful individuals, entrepreneurs, investors, package this into a course for people where we can hold them hand by hand to show them what we did and help them get on a clear path to financial independence. It's not a guaranteed timeline when this will happen, but we know if you set the foundation like us, you can get there. And I think that's what excites us the most about our next iteration here.
There's nothing that has changed about Ryan and I in terms of the purpose of this. Living life on your own terms is the purpose. Doing the things that you love. We are here to still build all of this with the people that come on board and do the coaching program. If I 3 years ago, Ryan and I, we have this platform here, but if I had a program that I can go into where I was getting one-on-one and then group coaching with people, all trying to achieve the same thing, I didn't even really know it existed until the last couple months or a year. If I would have known that, it could have even accelerated us faster. And I think that's kind of the reason for doing this. And it's also about growing together. So we're in no way trying to teach down. It's more so these are our experiences. We really, really, really believe that is a lot of value in there that can help other individuals along the way.
Totally. And I think one of the pieces of advice we got along the way was find a mentor as soon as you possibly can. And a mentor doesn't have to be a 65-year-old guy that looks like you or a girl that looks like you and has done the same thing. It takes all different shapes and forms. We've joined a bunch of different mastermind groups. We've had mentors in different fields. And for us, is the sooner we got a mentor or someone or got surrounded ourselves with people that were doing the things we wanted to do, they already reached that level of success. we were pulled up to their level. It's that quote that is always thrown around. It's like, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And it's so true. Like, there's just little things and habits you'll take along the line and inform that are healthy, that help you get to a certain point. I mean, we could rattle off a million different masterminds and things that have helped us, and ones that we've signed up for, we've pivoted out of. And we started realizing over time, like, dude, we have our own mastermind. We just haven't brought people in on it. We have mentors. How many different mentors do we have? We have a ton of them. Now, some of them we have a deeper relationship with others, but every week we're blessed with the ability to get strategic advice from people that come on our show for free. By the way, they're not getting anything out of this. Coming on the show to teach the successes that they learned because they want to give back and better the world as a whole. And that's, I think, another thing it's just important to us. There's a lot of things out there, and it can feel like you're drinking out of a fire hose sometimes, and then there's no clarity. There's like, oh, well, I could be investing in Robinhood in this GameStop thing or this crypto thing that's going on right now. And like, some things are a fad. Maybe you do 5 to 10% of your income on those, but the foundation, the pillars, and the structure for us, we've ironed it out into like six even keeled pillars that we're able to walk people through and just show them exactly how we got to where we got. And the best part is, we're going to bring in the people that taught us to help coach and teach the other people that are coming to our program how they can take advantage of certain things that they weren't taught in school as well. So it's just access to our network and things that we wish we had when we first started. And we realized we would be there so much quicker if there was something like this that existed, or that we at least knew about early on.
To continue on in the story a little bit with how it started to grow from there once the podcast started to get live, and you mentioned Chad, and we had other people on, and then strategic partnerships started to form out of people that we met on the podcast because they felt that they could know, like, and trust us. So then we ended up getting smaller equity pieces in larger multifamily projects, and we had a limited partnership here in the 7 unit that we have with our guy JD in the Poconos, and then a limited partnership in the 43 unit that we have, and then the general partnership in the 18 unit, and the general partnership in the 10Y project. Like, so all of those those are slowly creeping up. Our money's working for us from the money that we put in, and part of the project that we've helped on and raised capital and those things. Our net worth started to climb up like this. And that is all the strategy that we've learned from networking, which is one of the pillars in the course. And I wanted to say that there because the episode is kind of talking about how we grew our network to that 1.7 million combined, and that's still growing. A lot of it is like, you do things on your own. You then realize, okay, I'm going to continue to fill all these buckets on my own. Oh, there's people that know things better than me, and then I can start to partner. And not every partnership goes 100%, but there are so many options out there that you might want to tap into, which is is one of the pillars that we have in there. And if you want to go through them now, Ryan and I broke this out very succinctly for our coaching program and what you're going to get. And it's going to be a lot more in depth. This would take hours and hours to explain everything, but we're going to go through the pillars that as you come into our program, what are the things that we're going to touch on so that you have an idea of what it could potentially look like for you. So as we started to realize, like, what are the things that people really need to know in order to get their money working for them, to start to build some wealth so they can really live the life that they want to live. They can live it on their terms, and they can get more enjoyment and fulfillment out of it, and not just be a slave to money. This wealth building process there's a money that has a component to it, but this isn't about just making as much money as possible so you can be greedy on it. That's why we broke down these different pillars that all play a factor into the all-encompassing strategic plan that you're going to have to try to grow your self and your worth.
Totally. I think it's not just about the money, and that's the number one thing we want to talk about. It's like, how do you grow? It's wealth building and lifestyle, and having a healthy relationship with both. And I think one of the big things for us that it's allowed us to do is have that, that it almost feels like the voice or the little monkey on your back, that every time you get your paycheck or you're thinking about money, there's this fear, right? To be able to have that relief and not worry every time you go to pay for something, or that there's going to be less money than more at the end of the month, or going to be, how do I say this? There's going to be less paycheck than bills at the end of the month. That feeling,
more month, not enough money.
There you go.
Yeah.
That feeling of less stress and like the weight that is lifted off your shoulder, that is how you can then go do the things that you really want to do. And it frees you from that space of like contention and fear and desperation. Right? Totally. So I think what we want to do is, at least as we go into these pillars, the number one thing we want to talk about, and it sounds very basic, but it's not, we're going to talk about mindset. And it's the relationship you have with yourself and the relationship you have with money. And a lot of people have, you become what your parents or your fear that has grown you growing up, you become a version of that when it comes to thinking about money. A lot of people, right? Like, if you, let's just call it, maybe people just say, save your way to freedom. And you're just going to keep dumping every last dollar that you get from your paycheck. You're going to put it in a savings account. And in 65 years, you're going to be able to retire and you'll be able to do the things you want. We're like, dude, we don't want, when we're 65, we're going to be tired and old. I mean, hopefully I'm playing with the grandkids, doing whatever I want. Like, at that point, I don't want to be just starting to live my life. And it's, how can we start planning our life around our job versus our life, how can we start planning our job around our life versus our life around our job? Yep. Because I think that's what a lot of people are doing. So getting your mindset right is the most important pillar to start with. And then it evolves over time to the next stage that we're going to talk about, which is setting the foundation. And there's a lot of things here, but it's really going to start with a personalized financial audit. We're going to go through income, expenses, debts, assets, liabilities, all of the things, and we're going to make them trackable. So that way, and we'll go through tips, tricks, apps, and things that you can really cut through and hone in on. Hey, just because I'm here doesn't mean I'm staying here forever, but we need to know where you're at in order to build out a plan to go for the future.
Yeah. What are you great at that you can provide value? That's your foundation. What are you really good at? Are you in the right job? I mean, the whole point of this program is not to bring an upheaval to your life, right? It's to add a layer of consulting to your life that, from a bipartisan standpoint, where we have your best interest and we're trying to help you navigate through your own situation. And everyone's situation is different. The best part about this is that the coaching will grow into group coaching, and then we are forming a community out of this where you're going to be able to network with other people, Zoom, in person, hopefully, as this thing grows, where you're going to connect and say, oh, this person lives here, they're doing this. And it's all going to be this one formation of people all moving to strive each other and make each other better. But the foundation is, what are you great at that you can bring value to? Maybe you need to think about a career change. Maybe you need to think about, do I like this enough to grind it out for a few years until I can find the next thing? I mean, there's so many variables here, but the foundation is like, what does your financial picture look like right now? If we know what it looks like right now, and we know where you want to get to, then you can lay the groundwork and the path to get there. But you have to set it before you can just, you can be going down this path and you're going in the wrong direction the whole time, and that's what we're trying to avoid.
Totally. And I think we're going to give you what worked for us, but then there's going to be a bunch of different resources for you to explore as well. So there'll be clarity, but not, as Cory mentioned, it's not cookie cutter. Like, everyone's situation is different, but there are solid things that you can be doing to lay and set the foundation. Once that foundation is set, then you start moving into investments. And that's really the next iteration of this, is like, hey,
pillar 3, yeah.
Pillar 3, where your income is coming in. How do you start deploying that into other things? And we'll talk about debt payoff. We'll talk about savings rate. We'll talk about, go ahead.
I was just going to say stocks, bonds, ETFs, mutual funds, life insurance, just as an example of, like, Ryan and I don't want to come across as that we're experts on every single facet. The good thing is that we know people who are experts in each individual thing. So we're happy. Part of this is like to make introductions to the people, but we do understand the foundational piece of each of these and how they might be able to parlay into your specific scenario. So the investment is, as I mentioned, the stocks, bonds, ETF, like where the 401k, are you getting the match? Mutual funds, index, are you going in that right direction? Can you set aside the amount that you feel comfortable with to allocate to see your horizon on when you're going to get to the place that you eventually want to get to? And maybe you decide, hey, I think I should actually go all in on real estate because I'm a property manager, or my brother's a flipper. And it's not as if every single person has to have the same path. It's just that we're sharing what we did, and like these play a factor in how we've grown our wealth.
Yeah. And I think, as we've gone through our journeys, we've looked to our left and our right at our W-2s, and we've seen people we know the people that we're speaking to, like they're, I hear it all the time. And like, even when it was like talking about setting up 401ks, there's people that have been in my company for 5 years and they haven't set up their 401k yet and have been losing out on all this compound interest and having their money grow for them. That's just a basic thing. And then when we start talking about real estate, that I see really people's heads turning like, what? You have more than one property? That's insane. I can't even afford a house. And so there's a lot of different things in there where it's like, to be able to do that, you have to you're not able to afford it because you haven't done X, Y, Z first to set the foundation. And the next iteration, it really goes back to the Kiyosaki book. It's like building those pillar 4 is multiple streams of income, right? So it's like the foundation set, you have a plan and you're starting to take steps to clarify where you want to go. Then it's like, how do we start building those different streams of income and having all the opportunity for money to start working for you and trickle into your personal balance sheet?
Funny you mentioned the 401k thing. When we worked together at the same company, one of the young women who worked with me had said the exact same thing. She said, she'd been working there for 3 years and she'd never set up a 401k. And myself and my boss nearly were like, it's not as if we're looking down on anybody. We feel genuinely feel bad that she didn't know what to do. It's like, damn, we got to help this person because, just say her name was Sarah. It's not, but I'm just throwing it out there. Like 27-year-old Sarah maybe isn't going to know, but 38-year-old Sarah is going to wish 27-year-old Sarah made the move, and that's what we're looking for. There is a balance in this game between living in the now and living in the future. And I think Ryan and I have a pretty good understanding of that, a grasp. And we feel like our perspective might maybe you get a few ideas each pillar. And then before you know, you're shifting that dial and that direction where you were off this course, you shifted a few ticks and your trajectory is so much different. So that would be pillar 3.
That's 3 and 4.
3 and
so
4.
We talked about the multiple streams of income.
Yeah. To go off that, side hustles, like, we're not all talking about like grind culture here, but like there may be a perfect side hustle for you to do or to start that could end up being a full-time business, or you just really want to start this passion project. How do you get this thing off the ground? Again, we're not experts in everything, but the point is we did this with the podcast. We got this thing off the ground and we realized that, oh, this is the thing we love. And if we never started it, if we never figured out the way to get the side hustle going, we would have never figured that out. So side hustles and also the business formation too. Like we have a partnership, we have 5 businesses. How do you set them up? I mean, what's the best way to structure them? And we have resources as well as ourselves that have just done it. And again, it's not optimal. It's not perfect every time. Hopefully it is optimal, but it's not perfect every time. But we've seen it and we've done it. And I think business formation is another great one in that we have that in pillar 4.
Yeah. I think within business formation and it's like how do you have the most optimized structure of your businesses and how can these buckets fall into each other? And one of the main things with the side hustle is like side hustles are great. Passion projects are great. That's how you start and you got to find what you're good at. And we'll talk about that early on. That's why we really wanted to dive in on like things you like and things you're skilled at. Like we have a bunch of people that we know are skilled at video editing or they're skilled at graphic design. Maybe they start an Etsy shop. There's so many things you might not think about. And with the inception of AI and the digital age and a lot of different things, there's so many ways to make money online these days. So we'll just talk about that, but you might be an amazing landscaper. This is so basic, but like I worked for a landscaper growing up and I realized how much he was making per lawn. My buddies and I decided to start our own company and that was a side hustle of our own. That became our main hustle. And that was in college, right? But for us now, Cory and I are like, okay, our podcast is now slowly becoming the main hustle and everything derives off of that. And a hustle as in like a passion project that becomes a full-time income, which is really exciting. And I think we want to help people find the intersection between passion and purpose. And then, when you wake up every day going to do what you do, you're excited about it and you're not dreading it. You're not looking at the clock. And so that's just one thing. And Cory mentioned business structure and entities and all that. It seems like a doozy. It's not as complicated as you might think. And there's a couple different schools of thought we'll go over. And then taxes are also woven in there. And we'll talk about that in a different pillar, but it all kind of trickles down to each other. It's like building out your team and having these members that can help you protect the money that you're bringing in and helping you further solidify which bucket you should dump it in. So that's pillar 4. And then, I would say probably maybe Cory's favorite or one of our favorite pillars is pillar 5, which is real estate investing, because that has really allowed us to amplify our net worth. And that's kind of the bread and butter for us these days. We'll talk through all the different strategies that we have come across. Now, some of them will be layered and they'll be more advanced, but we're really going to target the basic strategies first. Like, how do you buy whether it's an investment property or personal residence, what are the steps you need to take and the team members you need to put on your team and instill before you go buy a property, and then follow those steps and guide you to buying your first home. And the exciting part for this pillar is like, this will take a big chunk of the course in itself, but we have all the resources to be able to do this. Every member of the team is covered. And if we don't have someone locally in your network, I'm sure we can find that person by all the people that we've interviewed on the podcast. Our network is vast at this point. And for us, this is something that, starting as soon as we had the idea to get a rental property and getting this foundation, these people in our network up front, that would have saved us years of time and probably a lot of net worth.
Yeah. So, your strategies, building your investing team, some deal analysis, some of the strategies, flipping, wholesaling, BRRRR, creative finance, syndication, short-term rentals. I would not say we're masters in all of those, but we've bought short-term rentals. We know how to underwrite them. We know how to analyze them. We're not master flippers. I'm not going to go out and say that we are. We've done projects like that. We're investing in syndications, and we understand how those things work, and we've run a couple of them on our with other partners as well. So the foundation of the real estate can help springboard you maybe to the facet of real estate that like you're really attracted to the most.
I think it's interesting. We've tried a lot of these different strategies, which is interesting because then we've been able to hone in on the ones we like, and that the ones we're good at, and the ones we actually want to put the time into. And so I think there's a quote that's out there that's like, the riches are in the niches. So we know what we're really good at and what we're going to focus on for the future. But I don't think we'd go back and not try them all, because there's things that we didn't think we would like that we really like. So we'll give a broad overview of the different strategies. And I think a lot of people are going to have different skill sets in other things. And that's going to help guide on like which way you should go. Maybe you're at a certain point in your life where you don't want to dive in all in real estate. You want to go sell wholesale properties, and you'll make a fee for each deal you hand off to another investor. Maybe you want to do a BRRRR project where you get something and it's undervalued. You put some money into it and you refinance out the cash that you put in, and maybe you live in that, and maybe you have someone rent it out. House hacking is something that we're huge proponents of. Cory, that will probably be one of the first stages of this pillar, is like, how can you subsidize one of your biggest expenses? Which I think
everyone should try to do that. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about. Creative finance is the realm of real estate that Ryan and I are focused on ourselves right now too. So we have an extensive network of people that have taught us that can also teach you. That's what we're focused on in terms of the real estate aspect of our business. So that's a great one too. You want to move to pillar 6?
I just want to talk on the creative financing too, because I think that in 2024, this might be dated by the time you're listening to it. It is the way to buy real estate these days. Rates are high. And a lot of people are struggling to figure out how they can get a property when they can't go into a bank and get a loan. So there's a lot of different strategies in this. We've been taught by a couple of different mentors, and we found some amazing people that we are going to bring on to help coach our network. And then also, if you want to work with them, we'll have that opportunity as well, which is really exciting. And so for us, just given the market, I think that creative financing is such a good tool to have in your arsenal to go buy real estate, because then you don't have to feel like you're handcuffed to going to the bank every time to get a loan. And we'll talk about all the different strategies, but broad strokes overview of it. We huge proponents of it.
Yeah.
And then to tie it all together really is going to be pillar 6. And that might be my personal favorite. I'm a very visual guy, and I like creating things and building things. And, this might not be for every single person, right? Because some people will be, maybe they're not on social media, maybe they are, but this pillar is going to be branding and networking. This is going to be how Ryan and Cory amplified their network, A, through the podcast, B, through social media and other means, and like how we were able to take our foundation and scale it up and put it on a silver platter to show everybody, hey, here's our dreams and aspirations. How can we help you? How can you help us? And really help us get to the level that we are at now.
Not everyone needs to be this branding master, right? But the branding and networking, they go hand in hand. And I posted something on our story. I guess nobody will be able to see it now because this episode will be out in a couple weeks from when we're recording, but I'll give you a synopsis. There's a kid, his name is Owen, and he's an 8th grader from Nebraska. And he has this goal to play varsity basketball. That's what he wants to do. I want to play varsity basketball. He started an Instagram account. Every single day he posted a new workout that he's that he's doing. Hey guys, today I'm working on this. And you can watch today, when I saw it yesterday, it was on day 105. I watched him go from somebody who it didn't look like he was very skilled, to day 30, to day 60, to day 90. He's at 105. And I'm like, this kid's going to play varsity basketball. He's got 120,000 followers. And what are they doing? They're not bashing him. They're watching him progress. And they're saying, oh my God, this kid is getting better. He's putting his aspirations out there. And not only did he build the thing that he wanted to do by going and playing varsity basketball, now he has a network and a branding tool and something that he can use in a totally different aspect of their life. So I say that because you may start something, and by branding and networking, it may lead you to another fork in the road that takes you in a different path. And if you're putting your message out there and you're talking to people and you're in a like-minded community, which we're going to help you provide, who knows? You may meet someone in our community that you're going to go do deals with. You're going to meet someone in our community that you might say, oh my God, we should start this business together. I can't believe we're both in the same county. So that's the branding and networking aspect that gets us super excited. That does have a major factor in your wealth building and just like your journey in general. So I say all that to say this is not a pillar, but the organization and efficiency is kind of thrown in throughout each of the pillars. That's the next thing. How do you keep yourself organized? What tools do you use? Is there a certain resource or something that we've used that can kind of, it's not going to be put in a box for you, but it's like, how do you hold the rope along the way?
Yeah. How do you become more efficient with your time?
Efficiency.
And I think, the days of pen and paper, I know writing things down are important goals and aspirations, but there are apps, there are programs, there's artificial intelligence. There's so many things to help you get a leg up on this thing. And what we found is what like I mentioned earlier in the episode, is what gets tracked gets measured, and what gets measured gets done, right? And it's really holding yourself accountable. And I think a lot of people we're not looking for the people that are just going to try something and then not stick to it. This is something we're going to build this wealth roadmap out for you. So that way you can tweak it along the way, because nothing's linear in life, right? You see, I always have this analogy, but like the whiteboard where you have the straight line going up in the vertical direction, it's not linear. There's so many squiggles along our path. We've gone up, down, left, right, stopped this, started this, right? But the one thing that's stayed consistent is our foundation. And that's what we're going to, kind of help instill for people. But the branding and the networking has really what's helped amplify us and help create strategic partnerships. And it's overcoming that fear of, that you're inadequate or you're at a level down. And what's the term for this?
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome. Yeah. A lot of people have this up front. It's like, hey, is this, if I've never posted on social media, your first social media post, your first podcast, your first anything's going to suck. And that's the way it's supposed to be. It's not going to be this most incredible thing, and you're going to be able to tweak it along the way. And that it goes to the same with your life, the same with your financial foundation, your family, everything. Everything's always started from something, right? You're not a master when it first comes out. And so it's like, how can you just do the right things along the way to help put yourself in the position to do so? But I'm really bullish and excited on the branding and networking piece. We'll show you how to grow social media. We'll show you how to grow a podcast, the tips and tricks that we've learned along the way, and branding in itself, and just how powerful that tool possibly can be to show someone, whoa, this person is taking this seriously and this is their dream and aspiration. I've actually already done that. I can help them out. Or, oh, they're really good at this. I'm lacking this in my business. Maybe they can come help me out. So it's full circle. I think the number one thing is surrounding yourself with people that have done what you wanted to do, and you'll get brought up to their level. The whole point of this is to build out a community and have like-minded individuals be able to talk to each other. How many times are you maybe driving in the car, thinking about this stuff, listening to podcasts, or you're at work and you're like, dude, I don't have any friends that are talking about this and wanting to reach that next level in their life. And I'm searching for that community. Well, that's what we're going to provide. We've provided it with our podcast. We've provided it with our social media by following along, but now you can join us and really have one-on-one access to us. And I think that's what we're most excited about. We really like helping people, and that's what drives us. And Cory's been a coach for years, more so on the basketball side, but he's helped shape and mold people's lives and help people get into the NBA, which is another sidebar we'll get into in the course. But it's a really cool thing. It's something we've been doing organically, and we just want to put a structure to it and have some people join our family. So we're excited.
We really are. So now we have, how can you get involved? How can you join? How can you do it? If you enjoyed this episode, or you want to take the next steps, Did you want to do this? Yeah, he wants
I got
to do
this.
it. Let's do it. Let him do it.
It'll be brief, but I think
Yeah.
the easiest way is, you guys know we're very active on Instagram. That's our main hub. So if you're interested,
Is our Instagram handle going to be different by the time this
Oh,
is
yeah.
open? So,
Yeah.
okay, that's
we're at Wealth Juice Official now.
How
So
about that?
you heard it here first. Yeah, that'll be across all platforms. But you could probably still search Weekly Juice. I'm sure Ryan and Cory would pop up. But at Wealth Juice Official, we want you to drop us a DM if you're interested. And all you have to do is say coaching, and we'll know that, hey, like, this person's interested in coaching, and we're happy to chat through it, see if it's the right fit, hop on a call, and go from there. But if you enjoyed the episode, this is something you're thinking about, and you have any interest, drop us the word coaching via DM on Instagram, and we'll be able to, take you to the next step from there.
So a little bit of a longer episode when it's just the two of us. We felt like we've spent, it's funny, we've been working on this project for months, but we really have been working on it since the day we started the podcast, because that was always going to be the next phase for us. We're thrilled about it. We do not feel like we are experts. We feel like we are the people that are going to be doing it alongside you, and when I say experts, I just mean in any one specific thing. I never want to call myself that. What I want to do is help you alongside you, kind of hold your hand and show you what we've done. And we're really thrilled to bring that to the forefront. We're going to make this coaching community the best thing that we've ever done. And if you're interested, Rye said it, DM us coaching, and we will book a call with you, and we'll see if it's a good fit.
Yeah, I think that's imposter syndrome sneaking out again from Cory on the expert thing. And I'm not trying to, when you put, I think it's, I don't know if it's Malcolm Gladwell or someone has a quote, but like, when you put 10,000 plus hours into something, you become a master and expert in your own right. And this is not to inflate us by any means, but I'm saying Cory and I have spent pretty much every waking hour for the last 6 years thinking about this. Like, how can we better our lives and get ourselves on this path to financial independence and retire before 40? That was our goal, right? And we're well on our way there, and we'll definitely be there. And now it's come to the point where, like, you start having a family, and you realize that, like, life moves quicker than you think, and time, like, years go by. And if you don't take accountability for yourself and your financial future, life's going to pass you by, and you are going to be the person that has to wait till 65 to retire. And you're going to look back, and there's going to be some people along the way, friends of yours, that have done it. And you're like, shit, like, I could have done it, and I just didn't take the action to do it. And that's why we put so much intensity and focus on ourselves and accountability and our partnership and helping each other get to this level, because we see we're looking into the future. We're not thinking about just the day to day, every single day. So we're excited about this. And I don't think we need to go into it any further. If you are interested, drop us the word coaching via DM, and we'd be very happy to have the conversation about potentially working together.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to chatting with y'all soon.
Thanks for tuning in this week to the Weekly Juice Podcast. If you liked what you heard, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, and share with friends. The more ratings we get, the more ears we'll get on our show, and in turn, we'll be able to provide you with more high-quality guests. You can also find us on Instagram at Weekly Juice Pod, where we post daily tips and tricks and document our own journey towards financial freedom. Make sure to tune in every Wednesday to get your weekly juice.